You know what the biggest mistake in houseplant care is? It's not what most people think. The biggest problem isn't forgetting to water. It's watering too often without understanding why your plant actually needs water in the first place. After helping countless friends rescue their struggling plants, I've broken down the watering decision into a simple system based on 7 key factors. Things like pot material, light exposure, and home temperature. When you run through these observable inputs before reaching for your watering can, you'll know exactly whether your plant needs water or not. No more guessing, no more yellow leaves. But first, we need to talk about why so many of us are getting this wrong. Here's something I need to confess to you, my dear friends. I've killed more plants by caring too much than I ever did by forgetting about them. And I know I'm not alone in this. The culprit is almost always the same thing: a rigid watering schedule that seemed so helpful at first. We've been taught that consistency equals good care. Water every Wednesday. Water every Saturday morning. Set a reminder on your phone and stick to it. It sounds reasonable, doesn't it? If you're reliable and disciplined about watering, your plants should thrive. That's what we've been told. But here's what that calendar on your wall doesn't know. It doesn't know if your home was 65 degrees this week or 78 degrees. It has no idea that your terracotta pot dried out completely in 2 days while your plastic pot across the room still feels damp to the touch. Your phone reminder doesn't care that we had 3 cloudy days in a row, or that you turned the heat up because guests were coming over. Let me give you a simple example that shows how different 2 identical plants can be. Take 2 pothos plants, the exact same size, potted at the same time. Put one in terracotta near a sunny window. Put the other in a plastic pot across the room in lower light. That first plant might need water every 3 days. The second one might go a full week before it's ready. Yet, if you're following a fixed schedule, you're watering them both on the same day. Here's what happens when we stick to that schedule no matter what. We stop paying attention to what the plant is actually telling us. The soil speaks to us through moisture and weight. The leaves show us their hydration through firmness and color. But when we're locked into watering every Wednesday, we ignore all those signals. We water because it's Wednesday, not because the plant needs it. There's a better way, and it starts with running through a quick checklist of observable factors before you pick up that watering can. Things you can see, feel, and measure right there in your home. No complicated equipment. No guesswork about whether it's been long enough. I'm going to walk you through 7 simple variables that control when each plant actually needs water. Once you understand these inputs, you'll never have to wonder if you're doing the right thing. You'll know. The real shift here is understanding that watering is a decision based on what's happening right now, not a date on your calendar. When you make this change in how you think about watering, you prevent both overwatering and underwatering. You stop drowning roots in soggy soil. You stop letting plants get bone dry because you thought they could wait until Saturday. Your plants are living things responding to their environment every single day. That environment changes with the weather, the seasons, and even where you place a pot in your home. Now, let's break down the first group of inputs that control how fast your soil dries out. Light and temperature are the first 2 factors you need to check, and they work like invisible accelerators on your plant's thirst. You can't see them doing their job, but they're constantly affecting how fast your soil dries out and how much water your plant actually needs. Here's something that might surprise you. A plant sitting in bright indirect light can dry out much faster than the exact same plant in a dim corner of your home. That difference is significant, yet most of us never think about it when we're deciding whether to water or not. Light drives photosynthesis, which is just the process your plant uses to make food and grow. When a plant is actively photosynthesizing, it pulls water up through its roots, through its stems, and out through its leaves. More light means more of this activity, which means more water consumption. Warmer air speeds up this whole process even more. Heat causes water to evaporate faster from the soil surface, and it also makes plants release more water vapor through their leaves. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. Take a snake plant near a sunny window during summer. That soil can dry out much faster, especially if your home is warm. Now take the same type of plant in the same size pot, but place it in a shaded hallway or a corner away from windows. That soil might stay moist much longer before the plant needs water again. Here's where most of us go wrong. We water all our plants at once because it feels efficient and organized. We walk around the house on Saturday morning with our watering can and give every plant a drink. But what we're missing is that each plant is living in its own little microclimate. The ones near windows are in a completely different environment than the ones across the room or in the hallway. Before you water anything, take a moment to notice where that plant actually sits. Is it in bright light or lower light? Has your home been warmer than usual this week because you had the heat up? Or cooler because you kept the windows open? These simple observations tell you whether that plant is burning through water quickly or sipping it slowly. Here's a practical tip that makes this whole system easier to manage. Group your plants by light exposure when you arrange them in your home. Put your bright light lovers together near windows. Keep your low light plants in another area. When you're checking to see who needs water, you can look at these groups in batches. You'll quickly learn that the sunny group dries out faster and needs attention more often, while the shaded group can go longer between waterings. Once you understand these invisible accelerators, you stop making the mistake of treating all your plants the same way. You start tailoring your care to what's actually happening in each plant's environment. A plant in warm, bright conditions is working hard and drinking fast. A plant in cool, dim conditions is resting and barely sipping. But light and temperature aren't the only factors at work. There's something else that has a surprisingly large impact on how long moisture sticks around. And it's been sitting right there in front of you the whole time. Your pot is part of the watering equation, and most gardeners never think about it. Have you ever noticed that your terracotta pots seem to dry out faster than your ceramic or plastic ones? Even when they hold the exact same plant, pot material is a hidden variable that dramatically changes how long your soil stays moist. Here's what's happening. Porous materials like terracotta and unglazed clay actually breathe. Moisture evaporates right through the walls of these pots, pulling water away from the soil much faster than you'd expect. Meanwhile, plastic pots and glazed ceramic create a sealed environment. Water can only escape through the top of the soil or out the drainage holes, so moisture hangs around much longer. Let me show you just how big this difference can be. Take two identical plants, same size, same soil, potted on the same day. Put one in a terracotta pot and one in a plastic pot. That plant in terracotta might need water much more frequently than the one in plastic, yet most of us water them both on the same day because we're making the rounds with our watering can out of habit. So how do pot materials secretly control your watering frequency? It comes down to evaporation and porosity. Terracotta acts like a wick, constantly drawing moisture out through its walls and releasing it into the air around the pot. You can even see this sometimes when the outside of a terracotta pot looks darker or feels cool to the touch because it's damp from the water moving through it. Plastic and glazed ceramic don't do this at all. They trap that moisture inside, which means the soil dries out only when the plant drinks it or when it evaporates from the surface. Now let's add pot size into this equation. Larger pots hold more soil, and more soil retains moisture for a longer time. That part is straightforward, but here's where it gets interesting. Larger pots usually support bigger root systems, and those bigger root systems can drink water at a higher rate. So the relationship isn't as simple as thinking a large pot means less watering. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't, depending on how developed those roots are. Here's a simple check you can do before you water anything, and this one is especially helpful if bending down to stick your finger in soil is uncomfortable. Lift your pots. Get a feel for the weight difference between dry soil and moist soil. A pot that feels surprisingly light is telling you the soil has dried out. A pot that still has some heft to it probably has plenty of moisture left. This technique works from a standing position and gives you immediate feedback without any guesswork. Do this regularly, and you'll start noticing which materials dry out fastest in your home. Your terracotta will always feel lighter sooner than your plastic or glazed pots. One more thing about pots. Make sure yours have at least one drainage hole on the bottom. That hole is essential for letting excess water escape and preventing root rot. Without proper drainage, even the best watering habits won't save your plants. Once you understand that your pot is part of the watering equation, you can make smarter choices about what materials to use. You can also adjust your expectations for each container. When you bring home a new plant in terracotta, you know right away it's going to need more frequent attention than that same plant would in plastic. But there's another factor that can make two plants sitting side by side behave completely differently, even when everything else looks the same. That factor is your soil mix, and it works hand in hand with the humidity in your home to control how long moisture sticks around. You water two plants thoroughly on the same day. One stays moist for a full week, the other dries out in just 3 days. They're sitting side by side on the same shelf, getting the same light, in the same temperature. What's going on here? The answer is soil composition, and it's a major variable that most of us never think about. Dense soil mixes that are heavy in peat moss hold water for much longer periods. These mixes act like a sponge, keeping moisture locked in around the roots. Loose, well-draining blends that contain perlite, lava rock, or chunks of bark work completely differently. They let water flow through quickly and dry out fast because there's so much airspace between the particles. Different plants need different types of soil because they come from completely different environments in nature. Succulents and cacti evolved in dry, arid places where water drains away quickly after a rare rain. They need fast-draining soil that dries out rapidly, or their roots will rot from sitting in moisture. Ferns and many tropical plants come from humid forests where the soil stays consistently damp. They do best in moisture-retentive mixes that keep the root zone moist for longer stretches. Here's what happens far too often. We use the same generic potting mix for every plant in our home because it's convenient and it's what we have on hand. But using the wrong soil for a plant's needs is one of the most common causes of root rot or chronic underwatering. Your succulent drowns in that peat-heavy mix. Your fern struggles in that fast-draining cactus blend. Now let's talk about humidity. Because it's the fourth input in our system, the moisture in the air around your plants affects how quickly soil dries out. Dry indoor air, especially in winter when the heat is running or in air-conditioned homes during summer, pulls moisture from the soil surface much faster. Humid environments do the opposite. They slow down evaporation, which means your soil stays moist longer. Before you water anything, do this simple check. Stick your finger about 1 inch down into the soil, not just touching the surface, but actually pushing down past that top layer. The top surface can be completely dry while the root zone below is still nicely moist. If you feel moisture at that depth, your plant doesn't need water yet. If it feels dry, then it's time to water. For succulents, you can check a bit deeper, around 2 inches, since they prefer their soil to dry out more thoroughly between waterings. Here's a practical tip for those of you dealing with very dry homes. Group your plants together on a tray or shelf. When plants are clustered, they create their own little humid microclimate as they release moisture through their leaves. You can also set pots on trays filled with pebbles and a small amount of water. The water evaporates up around the plants, adding humidity to the air without waterlogging the soil. And when you do water, use room temperature water rather than cold water straight from the tap. Room temperature water is gentler on roots and helps maintain a stable environment around your plants. When you understand how soil and humidity work together, you can predict drying patterns instead of guessing. You stop making decisions based only on what you see at the surface, which can be misleading. But here's something else you need to know. The same plant in the same pot can need a completely different watering routine depending on the time of year. Most houseplants enter a rest period when the cooler months arrive. They grow more slowly, and they drink less water than they did during their active growing season. Shorter days mean less light coming through your windows, and that reduced light directly impacts how much water your plants need. Even if you keep your thermostat at the same temperature year-round, those shorter daylight hours change everything for your plants. Let me show you just how dramatic this shift can be. A plant that needed frequent watering in summer might only need it much less often in winter. Same plant, same pot, same location in your home. The only difference is the season, and that's enough to significantly reduce the plant's water needs. Here's where gardeners run into trouble. They keep their summer schedule running all year long because it feels like the responsible thing to do. Wednesday was watering day in June, so Wednesday stays watering day in December. But when plants are resting and barely drinking, all that extra water has nowhere to go. The soil stays soggy. The roots sit in that wet environment day after day, and they can't get the oxygen they need. Root rot sets in. Leaves start turning yellow. The plant declines even though you've been so careful about watering on schedule. This is actually the #1 reason houseplants die. Overwatering kills more plants than any other mistake, and winter is when it happens most often because we don't adjust our routines to match what the plant actually needs. So, why does the same plant need different watering in winter versus summer? It comes down to biological shifts in how the plant functions. During active growth in summer, plants are photosynthesizing at full speed. They're pulling water up through their roots, using it to build new leaves and stems, and releasing moisture through their foliage. That process is called transpiration, and it happens much faster in bright, warm conditions. When winter arrives and light levels drop, photosynthesis slows way down. The plant's metabolism shifts into a lower gear. Transpiration rates decrease. The plant simply isn't using water at anywhere near the summer pace. Here's your simple seasonal check. As daylight hours get shorter and your home cools down, start extending the time between waterings. If you are watering every week in summer, try stretching that interval in winter. Always test the soil moisture before you water, using that finger test we talked about earlier. Don't assume it's been long enough just because a certain number of days have passed. I've got a practical tip that's helped me stay on track with seasonal changes. At the start of each season, I mark my calendar with a simple reminder to reassess my watering routine. It's so easy to operate on autopilot and keep doing what we've always done. That little reminder breaks the pattern and prompts me to actually think about whether my plant's needs have changed. Once you recognize that plants are dynamic and their needs shift with the seasons, you can adjust your care to match their natural rhythms instead of fighting against them. But understanding when to water is only half the equation. How you deliver that water matters just as much for keeping roots healthy and strong. Let me show you the technique that makes all the difference once you've decided it's time to water. Here's a common mistake I see all the time. People give their plants a quick splash of water every few days, thinking they're being attentive and caring. They're trying so hard to do the right thing. But what they're actually doing is creating dry pockets deep in the soil while only wetting the top layer. Those roots down below are stressed and struggling, even though the surface looks damp. Thorough top watering means you water slowly, taking your time until you see moisture running out of those drainage holes at the bottom of the pot. That's how you know the entire root ball has been hydrated evenly. Every part of the soil gets moistened, from the top all the way down to the bottom. This matters more than most people realize. Roots grow where water is. When you only water shallowly, you train those roots to stay near the surface, searching for moisture in that top inch or two of soil. These shallow root systems make plants less stable. They're more vulnerable to drying out quickly because all the roots are clustered up top instead of spreading throughout the pot. Now, bottom watering has become quite popular lately, and I want to address it honestly. While it works for some situations, it can leave the top layer of soil perpetually dry. Over time, salts and minerals from your water and fertilizer accumulate at the soil surface because they're not being flushed through. Those salt deposits can harm the crowns of your plants where the stems meet the soil. Here's the ideal technique that works reliably for most houseplants. Use room temperature water, not cold from the tap, because cold water can shock those delicate roots. Get yourself a watering can with a long, narrow spout. That long spout lets you reach right to the base of the plant without splashing water all over the leaves or making a mess on your furniture. Water slowly and evenly around the plant, not just in one spot. Let that water soak in, then add more until you see it draining into the saucer below. Once it drains, wait a few minutes, then empty that saucer so the pot isn't sitting in standing water. But here's what you need to know before you even pick up that watering can. Push your finger down into the soil, past the dry surface layer, about 1 inch deep. Feel what's happening down there in the root zone. If it's still moist, your plant doesn't need water yet, no matter how dry the surface looks. For larger pots where reaching the soil is difficult, lift the pot to check its weight. A pot that feels surprisingly light compared to how it usually feels is telling you it's time to water. A moisture meter can also help with those deeper pots where your finger can't reach far enough to get an accurate reading. My dear friends, if you have any difficulty bending or reaching, invest in a long-necked watering can. They make the whole process so much easier on your back and shoulders. Good saucers catch overflow and protect your floors. When you master this process of thorough, even watering, you give your plants the foundation they need for healthy roots, vibrant growth, and resilient foliage. You've learned to read the 7 inputs that control when water is needed. You've learned the technique that delivers that water properly. Now you have everything you need to move from guessing to knowing. Watering isn't a chore to schedule on your calendar. It's a conversation with your plants. Once you learn to listen through soil moisture, light exposure, and seasonal changes, you'll never kill another plant by guessing. Before your next watering session, run through these observable factors we've covered. Drop a comment below and tell me which one surprised you most. Was it pot material? Seasonal changes? I'd love to hear what clicked for you. This system isn't about perfection. It's about building confidence and enjoying the process of nurturing life, one plant at a time. Your plants bring purpose and satisfaction into your home.